this video, we're going to cover permissions in Flex, specifically broken down into roles and access lists. Roles, in short, are used to access what your users do within the system. The functions that they can access. For example, the tabs that they're able to access, the reports they can view, the views that they can access and create, and the specific forms that they see, as well as things like the queues they're a part of, the particular stages of a workflow that get assigned to them. Then for specific record level access, we use a tool called access lists. Access lists allow you to take a number of different records and control on a user or group level who is able to edit those records, change them, change the owner, and so on. So to wrap up, roles basically control what users are able to do, and access lists work kind of like file permissions in Windows. So first I'm going to show you roles. So the access roles, we go settings, roles, and to add a new role I would literally just click add role. I'm going to go into a role I made earlier here, which is manager. And you can see here we can pick multiple dashboards for the manager, so I'm going to give him, let's say, the sales analysis dashboard. I'm going to say process access no, and print access no. And then for user, you can see there's a user test there, and I'm going to re-add him. So there's test, and I'm going to add Mr. Admin to this role as well. Then under the tabs, he has access to vacation requests. I'm going to add employees also. And then for the views, I'm going to leave him with just my vacation requests. This is really going to limit him in his ability. He'll really just be able to manage and approve vacation requests that got assigned to him. So now I hit save changes and I sign out of the application, because we're now going to log in as Mr. Test. So the user test is already in that role. And when I log in, you can see that now I only see the vacation request app. Now before, when I was logged in as administrator, I saw all of the tabs, but now I literally only see vacation request. And when I drill in, you see I have employees and vacation requests. And under here I only have links to add a vacation request and my vacation requests. But the admin user saw a lot more than that. And that's the summary of how roles work. Now we're going to talk about access lists. Again, like I mentioned earlier, access lists are used to control access to specific records. Browse access gives a user the ability to see individual records. Read access allows them to click on it and see the full detail. Write access allows them to make changes, and delete access allows them to archive the item. Now, in order to use access lists, you have to enable it for that particular object. By default, access list permissions are switched off on business objects because a lot of the time, some of your objects, you don't need to control them on a record by record basis. So it's something you have to enable. So to enable it, on my vacation request object, I go to edit settings, and then here for ACL managed, I would select yes. Once I've done this though, it's not going to affect all the records. It's only going to affect records that have an access list selected. So the next thing I'm going to do to set up my permissions, I'm going to make a new access list. So to do that, I go settings, access lists. Okay, and then I'm going to create a new one here. It's open, and I'm going to give it the name of vacation read only. And then I save. So I can now drill into vacation read only. And now that I'm here, you can see by default there's write access granted to the creator, the owner, and the administrator group, which makes sense. I've already got a test user in the system, so I'm going to type in test and select my test user. So now he's only going to have read access to this record. I don't need to set browse access though, because by default users are automatically granted access backwards down the scale because it cascades. So basically, if a user has delete access, then they automatically have write, read, and browse. If they have write, then they automatically get read and browse. And of course, if they have read, they automatically get browse. These other options here, this would allow the user to change the owner of the record, and this would allow the user to pick a different access list for this particular record. You can see when I'm choosing a record down here, that is a concept here called an alias. An alias is kind of like a virtual user that's it's not a specific real user in the database. So for example, this is saying the creator of a record will always be able to write it, and the owner will always be able to write it regardless of who that user is in the system. So when the owner changes, the new owner will be able to make those changes, and so on. So I click save. Now again, right now I'm logged in as the administrator, so I have full edit access on everything within the system. So now, logged in as the test user, I'm going to create a new vacation request, and you can see the effect that the ACL has on it. So test request, start date is 31st, birthdays is 3, and create it. There it is, and you can see that I can still edit it. But if for access list I choose vacation read only and save, now I can't edit the record at all. I don't see an edit button up here, and all of the fields are read only. However, if this user was still the owner of this record and the owner or creator alias was set up, then he'd still be able to make the edits. Typically, this field, this access list field, isn't displayed on the form. Usually you would take this access list field and hide it, and then you use workflow to set it as the record moves through the process. So in our example, once the initial creator has made the record, it becomes read-only to him. It will then be only editable by the owner, the particular role that it's assigned to, and then once it's complete, it would become read-only for everybody. And that sums up roles and permissions in Flex.